Alright guys, I am back yet again with another deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard Dear Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 2 of my Dragon Empire Nirvana Jheva crossover-dress deck. So yes, I am finally getting around to doing a version 2 for one of these decks. And version 2 is everything through the second additional card pass, so through the booster set 10. And this deck has received quite a nice upgrade. We got a new form for Vairina, we got a new Prayer Dragon to go along with it, and we also got a new promo set order that helps this deck quite a bit as well. So a lot of the deck's resource problems have been addressed now, as well as drastically increasing the deck's overall just draw power and consistency. So it is quite a bit more dangerous than it was before. So we will be going through the deck real fast, and then we'll show it off in one card fight. So starting first with the Ride deck. The Ride deck is the same as it was before, so our Grade 0 starter is Surprise Egg. So it's rolled upon if you win second, draw a card. Standard, the series starter skill. Next for the Grade 1. We have Heart Pounding Blaze Maiden Reno. So our auto ability, when this unit is rode upon by snuggling Blaze Maiden Ryu, you search your deck for up to one Trick Star, call it a Rearguard Circle, and shuffle your deck. And then her continuous ability, when she's on Rearguard Circle during your turn, if you have a Prayer Dragon unit in the same column as this unit gets power plus 5,000. So she never ends up on Rearguard, so the second skill isn't used, really. And the first skill just lets you search out a Trick Star from your deck and immediately get it onto your board, which is obviously a vital piece for us to be able to crossover-dress with. Next for the Grade 2, we have Snuggling Blaze Maiden Ryu. So her auto ability says when this unit is rode upon by Chakrabarthi Phoenix Dragon Nirvana Jheva, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to one Prayer Dragon from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. And then again, she has a continuous ability on Rearguard Circle during your turn. If you have a Prayer Dragon unit in the same column as this unit gets power plus 5,000. So just like with Reno, she never ends up on Rearguard, so that second skill isn't really used ever. And the first skill is potentially a free +1 to your hand. There is that RNG factor since you're checking the top 7 for your Prayer Dragon. So it's possible you don't find anything, but it is cost-free, so even if it whiffs, you don't lose out on any resources. And then, of course, the Grade 3 is Chakrabarthi Phoenix Dragon Nirvana Jheva. So she's got her Activate ability that says once per turn, you can discard a card from your hand to choose up to one Trick Star and up to one Prayer Dragon unit from your drop, and call them to Rearguard Circle. So you need the Trick Star and the Prayer Dragon in order to crossover-dress them together into your Vairina forms. So this ability is a free +1, basically, since you're dropping 1 and getting 2 back onto your board. Which, if you combine this with the new set order that we have in this deck now, it can actually be a free +2. But either way, it is a very helpful ability in getting you your combo pieces that you need to crossover-dress. And then she's also got her auto ability that says when this unit attacks, you can counterblast 1 to choose one of your rear guards in the crossover-dress state and stand it. So very simple ability, just letting you restand one of your crossover-dress rear guards to get your 4th attack that turn, which the new Vairina that we have added to this deck has become the new primary target for this skill, since it has an on-attack skill that we can potentially use twice in one turn. So very simple skill, but very powerful. So that is the Ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, for the Grade 3s, we of course have our 3 additional copies of Nirvana Jheva, double frame rear, for our Persona Ride purposes. Next, we have 2 copies of Brilliant Equip Braum Vairina. So this is the first of our crossover-dress units, and you crossover-dress it with 1 Trick Star and 1 Prayer Dragon, which is the same requirements for all of the crossover-dresses in this deck. But he has this continuous ability that says during your turn, if this unit is in the crossover-dress state, this unit gets power plus 10,000, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets an additional power plus 10,000. And then he also has an auto ability that says once per turn, when this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, if this unit is in the crossover state, you can Soul Blast one to choose one of your columns and retire all of your opponent's rear guards in that column. So I was running this at 4, we've dropped it down to 2 now since it's no longer the primary restand target for Nirvana Jheva, but it is still a very useful card in this deck. With its first skill, it can hit 33,000 on its own, 43 with Persona Ride. So it can hit some very big numbers on its own, and it has that nice on-hit pressure, letting you potentially nuke one of your opponent's columns as well. So a possible -2 to them if they have a full column. So yeah, still a very helpful card, and probably your second priority restand target if you don't have the new Vairina out on your board. So then lastly for the grade 3s, we just have one copy of Flaring Cannon Equip Bower Vairina. So again, you crossover-dress it with one Trickstar and one Prayer Dragon, and it has an activate ability that says if this unit is in the crossover-dress state, you can Soul Blast 2 to choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. And then it's also got an auto ability that says when this unit in the crossover-dress state attacks a Vanguard, this unit gets power plus 2,000 until end of that battle for each of your opponent's open rearguard circles. Then, if your opponent has one or less rearguards, you can counterblast one, and until end of that battle, this unit gets drive -1, and this unit performs drive checks. So I did just keep Bower Vairina at 1 in this deck. It is an option to go into when you have the setup for it. It can be nice, but it's not necessarily something you really want to strive for. The first skill can pick apart your opponent's board and can be used multiple times in one turn if you can keep paying the Soul Blast cost. However, the new Prayer Dragon we added to this deck does have a Soul Blast cost of its own, and it's generally more important to be using. So if you have the extra soul and you can go for it, then you can decimate your opponent's board with that skill. And that will set up its second skill in order for it to power up and potentially perform a drive check during its attack. So you get that extra trigger chance and that extra +1 to your hand. So it still can be a good option for this deck, but it's more of a, if you have the setup for it, go for it, and less of a absolutely build toward it kind of a thing. So that is all the grade 3s, moving on to the grade 2s. First off, we have 2 copies of our first Prayer Dragon, Break Equip Dragon Urbargo. So his auto ability says when this card becomes an original address, you counterblast one to soul charge one, and choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So this one is meant to be used with Bower Vairina since it can give you a soul charge to help fuel his first skill, as well as picking off one of your opponent's rear guards to help set up his auto ability. However, you can use him to crossover dress into any Vairina form you need to. So it does give you that extra control option, letting you pick off one of your opponent's rear guards, and you get that resource for whatever purpose you need it for. So it still can be a useful Prayer Dragon for this deck. So next up, we have 4 copies of a new card we added to the deck. Mirror Reflection Equip, Mirrors Vairina. So this is the new Vairina form, the new crossover dress unit for this deck. And it has 2 auto abilities. The first one says, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle by crossover dress, you choose up to 2 cards with Vairina in their card names from your drop, and put them as this unit's original dress. And then its second auto ability says, when this unit in the crossover dress state attacks, this unit gets power plus 10,000 until end of that battle, and then you can put an original dress of this unit with Vairina in its card name into drop, and perform either draw a card or countercharge 1. So this is the new primary restand target for Nirvana Jheva skill. This is definitely the best Vairina form in the deck. It is a very powerful ability that you can activate twice per turn if you attack with it twice with Nirvana skill. So its first skill sets up 2 Vairinas from your drop as extra original dress for it, and then you use those 2 Vairina original dress to pay the cost for a second skill. So when you attack with it the first time, you can choose either to draw a card or countercharge one. And then if you restand it off of Jheva, then you can make that same choice again on its second attack. So it can either be a +2 to your hand, or a countercharge 2, or a +1 to your hand and a countercharge 1 every turn. So that is an extremely helpful skill. It helps with the resource management in this deck a lot, having a countercharge option, especially if your opponent tries to damage deny you. Also, that extra draw power is extremely helpful, since this deck is obviously very piece reliant, and, you know, crossover dressing is inherently a -2, so you definitely want as much plussing power as you can in this deck to help make up for that. Plus, even without any Vairina original dress equipped to it, you still get the +10k when it attacks in the crossover dress state. So it will also be a 20k beater, no matter what, as well. Which, that is the only real main weakness of this card, is after you use up the 2 Vairina original dress, usually in one turn, then there's no other way to get Vairinas attached back to it as original dress. The only way to do that is to crossover dress into another copy of it and reset it. So usually after you use it twice in one turn, then you need to intercept it away or something in order to get those original dress pieces back into your drop, and then next turn you can revive them with Jheva's activate ability, and then crossover dress again with a second copy from your hand. So you do have to constantly keep resetting it in order to use it multiple turns. However, the new Prayer Dragon that we got to go along with him does make that a little bit easier to do. So yeah, overall just an absolutely excellent card for this deck. So next up for the grade 2s, we do have our 2 copies of Sturdy Wall Equip Vils Vairina. So again, another crossover dress unit, and it has an auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle by crossover dress, you choose a card from your drop zone with the crossover dress ability other than Sturdy Wall Equip Vils Vairina and put it into your hand. So this is still a nice ability, letting you grab a copy of any of the other Vairinas from your drop and get them back into your hand. So again, if you have to intercept away Mirror's Vairina, next turn you can crossover dress into Vils Vairina and get that copy of Mirrors from your drop right back into your hand to potentially crossover dress into him as well in your other column, assuming you have the materials to do so. So still a very helpful ability for this deck. And he also has his continuous ability when he's on rearguard circle or guardian circle that says if this unit is in the crossover dress state, this unit cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects, and it gets power plus 5,000, shield plus 10,000. So he'll also be a 15k attacker and a 15k interceptor with a protection ability as well, since he can't be chosen by any of your opponent's cards. So he won't be able to be picked off by any of your opponent's control abilities, and he can be a good defensive or offensive card after you get him out onto your board. So out of all the Vairinas in this deck, he probably is the lowest priority to restand, since Braum, Bauer, and Mirrors are definitely all better targets than he is, but he can make for that nice other rearguard column that you won't be restanding, and he can still be an excellent utility card for the deck. So that is all the grade 2s, moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we have 3 copies of our new Prayer Dragon, Illuminate Equip Dragon Greyloo Mirror. So he has an auto ability that says when this card becomes an original dress, you can Soul Blast one to look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 cards with Vairina and their card names from among them, reveal them, choose up to 1 of the revealed cards, put it into your hand, discard the rest of the revealed cards, and shuffle your deck. So this is the Prayer Dragon that is meant to be crossover dressed into Mirror's Vairina. Of course, you can use any of them for any of the crossover dresses. But he does set up Mirror's Vairina perfectly, since when you crossover dress, you can resolve his skill first, and it will let you dig through the top 7 to find up to 2 Vairinas, and you can get 1 into your hand and 1 into your drop, or if you prefer, you can just go ahead and put both of them into your drop since it says choose up to 1 to put into your hand. You can choose 0 if you need the 2 Vairinas into your drop to attach to Mirror's Vairina as original dress. So this card can either be a +1 to your hand and then getting 1 into your drop to set up for mirrors, or just getting 2 into your drop to set up for mirrors. So a very helpful ability. Usually when I dig through the top 7, if I find any copies of Mirror's Vairina, I usually try to put them into my hand so I can continuously re-crossover-dress into him every turn. And any copies of anybody else I usually send to the drop in order to cycle them onto Mirror's Vairina for his skill. And of course, if you combo this with Vil's Vairina as well, whichever one you put into the drop, you can then turn around and add right back to your hand, assuming it's not the other copy of Vil's Vairina. So if you use him to crossover dress into Vil's, you can actually get a +2 to your hand using that combo. So again, a very versatile card that is absolutely vital for this deck and just helping set up your combo pieces where you need them to be. So next we got 2 copies of Flash Equipped Dragon Brahmada. So again, another Prayer Dragon, and he has an auto ability that says when this card becomes an original dress, you can counterblast 1 to draw 2 cards, and then choose a card from your hand and discard it. So this card did get dropped to 2, but it is still a pretty good draw engine for the deck, letting you draw 2 and drop 1. So if you discard a Vairina from your hand, that can potentially set it up in your drop zone to be attached to Mirror's Vairina, or just add it back to your hand if you went into Vil's Vairina. So the discard part of this ability can be turned to your advantage as well, and of course it does get you that extra card into your hand, so it is a +1 overall. So still a useful ability for this deck that is made a lot more easier to use with the countercharge option that Mirror's Vairina offers us as well. So next up for the grade 1s, we do have our Sentinels. So first off, we have 3 copies of Sparkle Rejector Dragon, just your standard Perfect Guard, as well as the 1 copy of Elementaria Sanctitude, the Nationless Blitz Order, that you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So then lastly for the grade 1s, we just have 3 copies of our new set order, Chakrabarthi Dance Sai-In. So there is no cost to play this order, and it has an auto ability that says when this card is put into the order zone or discarded from hand for the cost of your Vanguard's ability, if you have a Vanguard with Nirvana in its card name, you draw a card. So this card is a grade 1, but you don't want to play it until turn 3, since you need a Vanguard with Nirvana in its name to get this skill. So once you get onto Nirvana, you can play this card, and you'll get to draw. So that's just a free +1 to your hand. Or if you discard this to pay the cost for Nirvana skill, you'll get to draw as well. So that will replace the discard in your hand, while also letting you revive a Trickstar and a Prayer Dragon from your drop, effectively turning that skill into a free +2. Which we only need 1 copy of this set up in the order zone, so any extra copies of this you draw into can safely be discard fodder in order to pull off that combo. Which the one that we do get into the order zone can then use its continuous ability when it's in the order zone. That says, if you have a Vanguard with Nirvana in its card name, when your rearguard with Vairina in its card name would be put into the deck or bind zone by your opponent's card effect, you put all of the Trickstar in the original dress of that unit into your hand, and put that unit and the rest of the original dress into the drop. So this is a nice protection ability against any decks that can bind your rearguards or bottom deck your rearguards. So things like Chrono Jet, Shoujo Doji, Vermilion, what have you. Those decks can be very devastating against crossover-dress, since if they target one of your crossover-dress units, the original dress will move with it, so the entire stack will get either bound or bottom decked. So that can take away a lot of card advantage from you, all in one hit. So this ability does retarget those abilities, and instead lets you put the Trickstar out of the original dress back into your hand, and send everyone else to the drop. So you can then use Nirvana Jheva skill the next turn to revive the Prayer Dragon out of the drop in order to cross-over-dress again. And of course that Vairina that goes to the drop can set up to become original dress for Mirror's Vairina if you go into him next turn. So a very helpful ability when going against certain decks. If you are playing against something that doesn't bind or bottom deck anything, then this Order Zone effect won't be of any use to you, really. So you can then just safely use it as discard fodder for Nirvana Jheva's skill. So again, a very helpful card, especially against certain matchups. So that is all the grade 1s, moving on to the grade 0s. First off, we do have our 4 copies of Trickstar. So his continuous ability says this unit cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects. So just a simple protection ability. Of course, he's a vital card for the deck since he's required to cross-over-dress into all our Vairina forms. So then the only other grade 0s we have are our trigger lineup, which I am still just running rainbow triggers in this deck. So we got 4 crit, 3 front, 4 draw, 4 heal, and 1 over. If you want to replace the draw triggers with crit triggers, you can feel free to do so. I am just keeping it like I had it since I want to, maximize the draw potential for this deck. But anyway, first off for the crit triggers, we have our 4 copies of Blaze Maiden Zone. Just your vanilla crit. If you want to run the effect crit, you can swap this out for that one. Next for the fronts, we have 3 copies of Blaze Maiden Parama. So front with a skill, if your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, get shield plus 5,000. So you're a 20k shield, front trigger. And then for the draws, we got 4 copies of Flare Veil Dragon. Again, draw with a skill, if your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, shield plus 5,000. So you're a 10k shield, draw trigger. Then for the heals, we got our 4 copies of Blaze Maiden Rona. So just the vanilla heal. Of course, if you want to run any effect heals, you can feel free to do so. And then our 1 over trigger is, of course, Dragon Deity King of Resurgence, Dragveda. So his additional effect lets you choose one of your Vanguards and stand it. So always a powerful ability, being able to restand your Vanguard, but especially in this deck, since Nirvana Jheva's on-attack skill is not once per turn. So if you can restand Jheva, then you can use its skill again and restand one of your cross-over-dress units again as well. So that'll actually give you 6 attacks in 1 turn, assuming you can pay the counterblast cost for Jheva's skill 2 times, which again, thanks to Mirror's Vairina, is a lot easier for you to be able to do. So can definitely be very devastating trigger to draw into. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our 1 fight with it. And let's see, I think we'll fight Urara this time. And we will be going second. And I think I'll keep this hand, actually. Alright, so we can go ahead and discard Brahmata to ride Reno. And Surprise Egg will let us draw. So then I think I'll just go ahead and attack. And we get a draw trigger. And I'll let that one through. And we get a front trigger, so that will shut down our rear guard attack. Alright, so now we'll discard Braum Vairina to ride Ryu. And Reno's skill will let us search out a Trick Star from the deck and call it the rear guard. So we'll put it back there. So then I think I'll just go ahead and attack. And she gets a heal trigger when she does get. And that's really big, so I'll go ahead and just let that one through. And she got no triggers off of that. But we got a crit trigger. And let's see, I will block that with Trick Star, actually. Since we can revive him from the drop anyway. And we'll guard that one with that draw. Alright, so we will go ahead and discard, and we'll drop one of these Grelou mirrors to ride Nirvana Jheva. And Ryu's skill will let us check the top 7, and we did find one Prayer Dragon, so we'll get Brahmata into our hand. So we don't really need to play Cyan since she can't bottom deck or bind anything. So what we'll do is use Jiva's activate ability, and we will discard Cyan instead. And then we can revive Trick Star and a Prayer Dragon from our drop. So we'll revive Grelou Mirror and put both of them over here. So then Cyan's skill will let us draw one. So then we'll go ahead and X-overDress into Mirror's Vairina. So we can use Grelou Mirror skill to Soul Blast one. And we can check the top 7, and we find only one Vairina, but it's Braum Vairina. So I'm actually not going to add him to hand. I'm just going to send him to the drop, so we can use Mirror's Vairina and equip both these Braum Vairinas to him as original dress. So then we will call Brahmata from our hand and X-overdress into Vil's Vairina. And we can use Brahmata's skill to counterblast one. and draw 2, and then we can discard 1, so we'll discard this Mirror's Vairina. And Vil's Vairina skill will let us add it right back to our hand, so we basically didn't have to discard anything. So then, let's see, I will go ahead and pop this Grelou mirror behind Vil's as well. And then I think we are good to go. So we will attack with Mirror's Vairina first. And his skill will give us an extra 10k, so he can hit, potentially. And then we'll detach one of these Braum Vairinas, and we can either draw or countercharge, which we got 1 face-up damage, and that's really all we need right now. So I'm going to draw. So then we can attack with Nirvana Jheva, and use Jheva skill to counterblast. And we can restand Mirror's Vairina. And we get a crit trigger. So crit to Jheva and power to Mirrors. And she gets a crit as well. So then we'll attack with Vil's Vairina next, who can just barely hit. She lets that one through too. Oh, and she gets a front trigger. So Mirror's Vairina won't be able to hit her Vanguard, so we'll have to attack into one of her rear guards here. So they're both the same one, so we'll just attack that one. And again, Mirror's Vairina's skill will activate, gaining 10k. And we can detach Braum Vairina to either draw or countercharge, which I believe again I will draw this time. She called back the same rigard. So I think I'll go ahead and let that one through, even though it has triple drive. She gets a heal trigger when she does get. And a crit trigger on top of that. Wow, and a front trigger. She triple triggered that time. And this is going to put us to 4. Well, we get a draw trigger. Oh, and a heal on top of that, which we don't get, but we do get the power. So I think I'll intercept with Vil's for this one, as he's a 15k shield. That'll be just enough. So this is really huge, and I probably should just let it through, but I want to reset Mirror's Vairina. So I'm going to intercept, and then we'll guard with the heal, and the crit, and we're 5 short, so we'll throw Urbargo in there. Alright, so now we can Persona Ride. So let's see, first I'm going to use Jheva's ability, and we will discard Cyan from our hand again. So we can revive Trickstar and a Prayer Dragon, so let's revive Brahmata. And then Cyan will let us draw once again. So then we can once again cross Overdress into Mirror's Vairina using Trickstar and Greylou Mirror. So Greylou Mirror skill, let us Soul Blast one. And we check the top 7, and we find 3 different Vairinas this time. So let's see, we will add... let's reveal Vils and Bower. So then we can add Vils to our hand, since her board's full and I don't really have a way to clear it right now. So then Mirror's Vairina will snag 2 of these Vairinas from the drop. So we'll add Vils and Bower. So then we'll call a Trickstar from hand. And we can cross Overdress once again into Vils Vairina and Brahmata. Will let us Counterblast, draw 2, and discard 1. So I believe I will discard that draw. And Vils will let us add a Vairina back from our drop to hand, so we'll grab one of these Braum Vairinas. So with that, I think we are good to go. So we'll go ahead and attack with Mirrors first. And his skill will give him 10k. And let us detach a Vairina and draw. So then we'll attack with Nirvana Jheva and use her skill to Counterblast and restand Mirrors once again. And she got her 2 to pass. And we get a draw trigger, but I do not want to risk that. I will give that power to Vils, actually. And yep, no trigger. So now we can attack with Vils Vairina. And then once again with Mirrors Vairina, using his skill to gain 10k. And detach Vils Vairina to either draw or countercharge, which I'm about to deck out, so I think I'll actually just countercharge this time. And she guards. And she does get her persona right again. So I better go ahead and perfect guard this one. So we will discard that draw. She gets a crit trigger. And another crit trigger. And she's stacking it all on one rear guard. So I think I'll guard and intercept with mirrors again to reset him. And that'll be just enough. And we'll go ahead and perfect guard that one. And we'll discard one of those heals. And with perfect timing, we drew our persona ride. So she's got 6 cards in her hand. Let's see if we can pull this off. So I am going to go ahead and use Jheva's ability. And we will discard 1 from our hand. So let's see, I'm going to discard one of these mirrors actually. And we will revive Trickstar and Greylou Mirror. And then I'm going to crossover-dress into Braum Vairina, actually, instead of mirrors. And use Greylou Mirror skill to Soul Blast. And I don't even think we have any. Yeah, we don't even have any Vairinas left in the deck. But we got 1, 2 triggers. So, let's see, I think we are all set up there. We got Braum, who has a lot more attack power than mirrors would have. So we are going to go ahead and attack with Braum first. And she perfect guards. So then we'll attack with Nirvana Jheva. And use Jheva's skill to counterblast. And we will re-stand Braum Vairina. And she guards for 2 to pass. And we got our front trigger. The only trigger left is our over, which would blast through anyway. But we didn't get it. But now we can attack with Braum Vairina once again for a whopping 53,000. Oh, and she had another perfect guard. And she doesn't have to discard because she's only got 1 card left in her hand. But unless that 1 card is another perfect guard, we should still have her here. So we'll attack with Vils Vairina. And it was another perfect guard. Come on. Wow, she survived that with triple perfect guards. And she drew her persona ride, of course. Wow. So we are dangerously close to decking out right now. So we will perfect guard that one. And we will drop our Bargo. And she got no triggers. So let's see, we will... I could take the damage, but I don't want to deck out. So I think I'm going to intercept, and we'll have to overguard here a little bit, but that's fine. And then let's see, we'll guard that with the front and Grelu Mirror. And we drew Trickstar. So let's see if I can pull this off without decking out. I got an over trigger in there. That is not good, actually. So we'll use Jheva's skill and we'll drop that Trickstar. And revive Trickstar along with Grelu Mirror. And cross overdress into Mirror's Vairina. And I'm not going to use Grelu Mirror skill because there's no need for it, so we'll just use Mirror's Vairina. And we'll attach Vils and Bauer, because why not? So let's see if we can get it. I know she ain't got much in her hand, so we are going to attack. And we'll attack with Mirrors first. And use his skill. Gain 10k. And detach. And countercharge. So yeah, I think I can get her without attacking with the Vanguard. So we'll attack with Braum Vairina. And she's got to let it through. And that crit does not save her, so we did finally get her. Well, we cut that one very close with only 3 cards left in my deck. And if I checked into that over trigger, then I would have decked out. So that wouldn't have been good. But we did manage to pull it off. So there you go. That was version 2 of my Nirvana Jheva crossover dress deck. The deck is quite strong now, thanks to Mirror's Vairina. So I do like it quite a bit. So I will be back soon with more deck profiles. Next up, I will actually be doing a different variant of Nirvana Jheva that uses both overdress and cross overdress. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.